Hello. Hello
Hey.
and welcome. Welcome to Perfectly Twisted. It's Nicole Eggert and Dave Palais.
Good to see you. Good to see you.
See you.
We always forget this, and we always joke. This is the running joke on this show. Again, if you're tuning in and you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to the show and the thumbs up. That like button's right there. So everyone always says smash it on every other show. Smash the thumbs up, but whatever. Just push the damn thing. Don't break.
Don't try to be a TikToker, Dave.
Yeah. I don't understand that whole why everybody has to use the same exact word, but okay, whatever it takes, just push the thumbs up.
I think we all know what hit the like button means.
How's everything going this week?
Everything's good. You know, it's like my good week where I feel really normal and everything. And then today I start. I have MRI. I have testing, scanning today and tomorrow.
Okay.
So by next week I should know a little bit more what's going on with my body.
Good.
Good. Yeah. So just trying to stay positive, stay calm, all of that good stuff.
Good deal. Good vibes.
Yes. So we have a great guest today. I'm super excited about. She was on one of my favorite shows, Facts of Life, growing up, and she's now on one of my favorite shows, Palm Royale. So please, let's welcome Miss Mindy Cohn.
Hi, you guys.
Hi.
Hey.
Hi, sweetie. Nice
How
to
are
meet you.
Nice
I
to
love
meet
how
you,
we're four eyes twinning.
Oh, honey, women of a certain age. All I have
I
to
know.
say, at 50, everything fell, including my eyes. Here we go.
It's the truth, isn't it? It really is. I saw Mindy on a morning talk show. I got so excited. You just have the coolest style. You just are like so
Good
adorable.
golly. Oh my God, Nick. I don't know about that, but thank you. I'll take it.
I love it. I
Thank
love it.
you.
I love it. So wait, I have to talk Palm Royale just for a minute because
Of
that
course.
cast. I mean, what a cast.
It's just
Holy-
stupid, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's insane. And what
Yeah.
is that like on set? Tell me, like, were you nervous going into it, or like, I don't know, I'd probably be peeing my pants, but
You think I would be. I mean, I did almost cry during my first scene with Allison Janney when I, came out of my body a little bit. But it was so immediately comfortable for all of us, which was shocking. I'm sure you can relate to this. We don't go to work to make friends. And it's really, chemistry is great, but you usually just don't have this familial attitude until much later on if you get to do season 2, season 3, season 4. But we all felt that from the read on, and it just got stronger and better. In fact, 2 years later, because of the actors' strike, when Apple finally got us to go out and promote this thing and streaming, we would do press all day and then go to dinner at night. And the PR and marketing department of Apple was just like, you guys aren't kidding, right? It's like, we can't get enough of each other. So it was a real, almost gag-worthy love fest. And then, of course, as an actor, this is what you dream about. Like, am I going to get better if I'm acting alongside these people? Yes, you are. It's just like, you cannot help but elevate when you're around people like that. So I think not only obviously it's written so beautifully and shot so beautifully and everything so beautifully, but I'm really proud of Little Ann Holiday up there with everybody else.
yeah. I mean, you definitely hold your own, no doubt. But even when you're the most amazing, I know that everybody still gets like the jitters and still gets like, But I think that Kristen Wiig kind of sets that tone, right? I mean, I feel like that from her. I feel like she's such good, normal people.
She is a cross between the best maternal energy matched with your best sorority sister, matched with the buddy you want to go have a beer with. So, I mean, it's like, yeah, she's pretty amazing. And you're absolutely correct. I mean, every person on the crew, every person at Apple, everyone who came on the set was just kind of amazed that we would all be sitting there together, laughing, joking, not tense. When someone had either a hard scene or a lot of words, we would give them their privacy and their respect. But generally, it was a really good time.
I mean, and Carol Burnett, like, I don't think I think I would freeze. Like, I would freeze and like nothing would come out or something crazy would come out of my mouth because, I mean, she's like And I'm sure you felt the same. She's an idol. I mean, she was sort of
She is.
like
I
what
mean, I'll
introduced me. Go ahead. Yeah, no,
no,
tell me.
finish.
I was just gonna say between her and like Lucille Ball growing up, it's kind of who lets you know you could be your authentic self and like be beautiful and be weird. And it was like,
Yeah,
I owe
I
them
love
so
that.
much.
I
Yeah.
mean, I had it really easy because Carol was one of my carpool moms growing up. So I went to high school with her daughter. And so I've known Carol 40 something years. And yes, while this was the first time I got to work with her, which is a whole nother level, um, we looked adoringly at each other, and she even said, I've known this kid for so long and we finally get to work together. So that, and along with Ricky, who I met when we were filming our shows. And
Oh,
he
sure.
was
Yeah.
with Menudo, and he came to do an episode of Silver Spoons, which shot next to Facts of Life. So I met him as a 12-year-old thinking, well, he's now the Ricky Martin. He's not going to remember. He absolutely remembered. So there was this comfort level with a couple cast members that I didn't think I'd have, which was really kind of fabulous.
Like gives me like the goosies. I got chills all over because that's just, that is the best feeling. And like, of course, Ricky Martin, I would feel the same way, like he wouldn't know who you were, but of course he does because you were so huge. You were the star at that
Oh
time.
my
So
God,
of course
please.
he was like excited to be in your presence. That's just like, oh my God. Yeah, he's been in the game a long time.
He has. And finally, he loves and is brilliant as a musician and a singer, but he's a really good actor. And I think this finally has given people a chance to see him as an actor,
Yeah.
not just as Ricky Martin. And I'm really excited for him, and he's excited for himself, and he should be.
Yeah, he should be. Yeah, he was. I was wondering, like going into it, how he would be or how he would be received. But no, he's fantastic. He's
So,
fantastic.
our showrunner Abe Sylvia and I both kind of like jinx, you owe me a Coke, when we just said, he is so much like the movie stars of the past, right? This kind of like, he's got this Cary Grant kind of like charisma and like humor and a little mischief. And we told him that, and he didn't know who Cary Grant was. And by the following week, he came on set and he's like, okay, did a deep dive on Cary Grant. First of all, thank you. And second of all, he was a genius. And he's so eager to learn and know about the history of film and television. And I love people like that.
Yeah, I'm amazed he didn't know who Cary Grant was. But you're right, he has that, and it's almost like a gentle. It's like a gentle power. It's a gentlemanly thing. Yeah, like certain men have it. Yeah, that's. Oh my God, the look of that show is just like epic. I love it. It's like my favorite era. I love Miami. Like all of it is such a package with a bow. I just, yes. So thank you.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, please. It's such a thrill. And I'm so glad people are loving it. You never know is all I'm going to say. Right. And so I'm just so thrilled that people are taken with it and enjoying it. And we're still waiting for our official season 2 pickup, which we all
get it.
Rubbing a Buddha and lighting candles and doing whatever we have to do to make it happen.
I will too, because I literally subscribed to Apple Plus just for the show.
Thank you.
I literally was like, I need it. I love this show because there's so many subscriptions and there's only so little TV I can watch. But that was one I had to get. I was like, I can't miss this. Yeah. All the rage. So congrats on that.
Thank you.
I love that. And how did that, when you auditioned, like first of all, did you audition for it? How did that go? And like, did you know what the cast lineup was?
Not fully, but first of all, thank you. And this is why I love you and talking with, other actors, because, people assume that if you've been on a show, even as long ago as Facts of Life was, that somehow, you don't have to audition. You don't, 99.9% of talent auditions. I don't know where this comes from that people don't. So yeah, it was the normal process of you get the audition and you do it. And it was the time of COVID. So we were self-taping. And my friend Tara Carcian, who does all of my we help each other with our self-tapes. Yeah. And I just, I always like to audition. To me, it's like I get to work, although I'm not getting paid. They come so far and few between. So it was a thrill. I knew Kristen Wiig was attached, and I knew Laura Dern was producing and doing a part in it. That's all I knew.
Okay.
Yeah, just gave it my all. And then what was really darling is that Abe Sylvia, our showrunner, and Kristen tell the story that when my tape came through, Abe called Kristen and said, if you're not watching what I'm watching, you have to start watching it, because I think our Anne Holiday just came across the screen and it was me. So I was so tickled, and it was a mutual appreciation from the get. So it was very, very exciting.
Oh, again, I got the go see. I don't know if you agree with me on this, but I feel like when you audition for something and then book it, there's something just that next level gratifying, because offers can come through, and it's like, okay, but that element of like suspense, excitement, really wanting it, that journey is kind of missing when it's just an offer. So like when you audition for something and there's like 10,000 people auditioning alongside of you, and they love you and you get the part, there's something, I don't know, there's just something amazing. It's like winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, they've picked you out of all the people in all the land. I mean, I don't know about you, but the things that are offered to me are not the things like Palm Royale, right? They're the things that are very, for lack of a better term, Natalie adjacent, or they're wanting someone of a certain notoriety, and it's not usually the quality of project. I'm being generous. You know, so the offers, at least on this end, usually aren't something that fabulous, unless there's a friend involved who knows what you can do and is gonna give you the challenge. So yeah, I totally agree with you.
Yeah,
Yes,
I'm in the same boat with you with the offers. Yeah, they're not the
yeah,
things they're not the projects you're passionate and you really, really
right,
want. Yeah.
right.
No, I love that. Do you like self-taping?
I didn't at first. I'm very good in a room, and I just energetically, right? It's
Yeah.
acting to me is a group sport. Even though you do a lot of the work on your own, then you do it with somebody or people, and so to do it in that way, also technically, I am Amish. I mean, I as you can see, I had a little challenge getting on here today. God, I mean, they just can't make it easy enough for Auntie Mindy to get on. So once I had it down of how to do it, though, I will say it's incredibly liberating. And I also think that casting directors and producers now aren't as precious about what you look like, and whether I need glasses. So I wear glasses in all my self-tapes. Because I'm reading. I do not memorize unless I get paid. Right. And so, yeah, hire me. I will learn my lines. So I love that with self-tape, there's much less pressure. And as far as LA traffic is concerned, it doesn't take half a day to go audition for a guest spot on something. So it really, I'm not mad at it. Let me just put it that way.
Yeah, I agree, because I hear so many actors complaining about it. And in my mind, I was like, but you get to stay home. You don't have to deal with driving, parking, traffic, and you can do as many takes as you want. And then I did my first audition. I did my first audition and I was like, um, I did a whole setup. It really took me a long time. It was not this like snap easy thing I thought it
Yeah.
was going to be. Once I get all of that down, I think I'll have that same, love for it. But it was a little bit more. And unlike you, I memorized it because I have one of those minds where if I read it a couple times, I kind of like I just memorize it. I won't remember. I won't remember next week, but in the
No,
moment, I have like this.
it's such a skill. I mean, I'm jealous of you for that. It's wonderful. It's a good skill.
It is, except like when you're doing like a network audition. So like for people, when you do network, the writers are super thick. Like they want it word for word. They
Yeah.
want you to they want you to act, and they want you to deliver every word for word. Whereas other things, movies and other things, they let you, like, it's a little bit more loosey goosey. This was a Netflix thing, and that's where the memorizing kind of gets me, because I may not memorize it. Like my recall in my brain isn't exactly like the way they wrote it. So it's like take after take after take in my living room. I was like, I don't know. Maybe it would have been easier to go and just read it. But so do you hold your sides in your hand when you're doing it? How do you read it?
No, I have them up on the computer, and I just I use Photo Booth and the
Okay.
video option. And so I've got Photo Booth here with the little push button, and the sides right there. And I FaceTime with Tara, so she's off camera.
Okay.
And we record it scene by scene. And then I can edit the beginning and the ends of it, where I'm pushing the button to stop. And I put it in a Dropbox link. She knows how to do that. And, and off it goes to the agent. So I've got it down. The only I will say there is something about, though, again, going in and meeting the casting directors, because a lot of the casting directors that are working right now, I haven't worked for or with. So I think it's really important still that, like, interpersonal, that they know who you are, that they meet you in person. So I'm hoping it comes back at some point a little bit. I think they are. I'm not really sure. We'll see.
Yeah, because I had talked to my team and I was like, don't people do like generals anymore? Even if they're just like over Zoom, and they were like, nope, not a thing anymore. And I was like, that's too bad, because especially with Zoom being so popular, you feel like they could do, it wouldn't take much of their time to do generals just once in a while. But yeah, I know it is missing that, like, where they get to see your personality.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm going to use Photo Booth. I didn't do that. Well, I set up like a big screen, and then I put my phone in a stand, and I have like a remote control to the phone.
Yeah, I
But
can't do it.
do you sit down or do you stand up?
I do it just like this. That's my background. I usually look like this, and I do it.
Okay.
And by the way, it's like, well, have you booked? I booked a couple things, but I booked Palm Royale.
Yeah.
So it's like, I know it works. You know what I'm saying? Like, it works. Yeah.
Oh, okay. You gave me inspiration. I'm going to try that, because this is a much easier thing to deal with.
So easy.
Oh, yeah. Good. Very good. Oh, okay. Let's talk about way back when, because everybody, Facts of Life was just one of those shows that we all grew up on, and it was like female driven. Wasn't such a big thing. I mean, it was one of the first where you had all the female driven cast, for young people like that. So you had all different like walks of life, all different characters, and you gave everybody, the show gave everybody could relate to a character on there. Mm-hmm. And so what was that audition process like, and how did that go? And did you guys know that was going to be a hit like that, or?
Well, I didn't have an audition. That was when I got discovered by Norman Lear and Alan Horn. So I was at my school, which in LA, it's now called Westlake Harvard. But at the time I went, it was called Westlake School for Girls. And Norman Lear and Charlotte Ray and Alan Horn came up to the school to try and talk to a couple of students to authenticate scripts. And they were doing this spinoff from Different Strokes about an all-girls school, and wanted to talk to some students. And me and my friends, Dara Perkins and Andrea Navin, went up to our headmaster's office, and we were the three girls that they talked to. And by the end of that sort of hour of gabbing, Norman came up to me and said, we're going to write a part for you in this show. And I was like, okay, and I was like, I didn't know what they were talking about. I was in summer school. I got to meet Mrs. Garrett. Like, that was cool. But I just didn't even clock what was going on. And, 3 days later, I'm in Norman Lear's office with the casting director, and we're signing contracts, and we're going to do 4 episodes in August on this new show called The Facts of Life. And your name is Natalie. And I remember who was Charlotte Ray's best friend's name in high school. That's how the name Natalie came. And then Norman had asked me my favorite place to visit. And I said, New York. And he said, okay. And he goes, what's your favorite color? And I said, green. And he goes, okay. Natalie Green was born. And we thought it was going to be a very fun little summer vacation thing before I entered my 9th grade year at Westlake. And lo and behold, NBC went, no, give us a season. And we were off to the races. We didn't know it was going to do well. This was Norman's last show before he kind of turned the company over to Alan Horn. It then became Castle Rock. And so, you know, when we got a pickup for season 2, only then and they brought on Nancy McKeon, only then did we think, oh, I think NBC really likes us and I think we're on to something. You're still so young, though. You have and I had no concept of how that worked. So luckily, I think, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, we all
it
just
fresh.
treated it. Yeah, we treated it like our extracurricular activity. So it's what we did. It wasn't who we were. It was a job. And again, I think Norman set the tone of just it being a place of employment. So there was no, all you hear about like kids being indulged and you know, like we didn't have that. It was work and we had a blast. And there were other shows going on, like One Day at a Time and the Jeffersons. These were our neighbors. And so we were surrounded by adults working. So yeah, we just, you know, I think what was so lucky for us is by the time we became a certified, you know, and I put it in quotes, hit, we were older. We were like 16, 17, and we had been doing it for a couple of years. So there was no hijinks and craziness and diva behavior and all of that. We all come from, excuse me, very good families. We weren't the breadwinners of our families, which I think is really important. Wow. So none of the crap and all the goodies is what we got. And I think that translated. I think people saw and felt that we really liked each other and we were having fun. And there wasn't drama. And I think people really wanted that kind of escapism, right? Yes. And like you said, and then, you know, there's a flavor for everybody, you know, as far as the characters are concerned, you know?
Yeah, there really was. And also because, you know, I think for me, I was at an age where it was pretty catty at school, you know, and awkward and everybody's kind of like weird. So it was great to see girls that you could look up to that were getting along and worked things out and like
real friends.
Together. Yeah, real friends and like healthy friendships.
Yeah, no, that's the thing we get now, even 45 years later. I mean, is just like you taught us that, you know, girls don't have to be like competitive and petty, and you can actually like be there for each other and root each other on, and also tell each other when you're not doing great, and that it's very loving and supportive. And I guess that hadn't been shown on TV, right? At that time.
Not really. No.
Yeah.
And no, it hadn't. And do you guys all still keep in touch, or do you guys do reunions or anything like that, or like autograph signings or anything like as a whole cast? I'd geek out.
We don't. You know, we've each done our own thing. I mean, Nancy and I are probably the closest in that we talk all the time and we're genuine friends. I mean, like in our lives. We know what each other is doing and we care about each other and we're there for each other, right? It's like being in the Army. After 10 years, it's like you're bonded. Yeah. People talk about college friends. It's like, poof, that was only 4 years. You know what I mean? We were together 10, you know, it's just like, there's something that happens, you know, for the rest of our lives. But as far as the day-to-day at this point, I mean, I'm on the verge of turning 58, as is Nancy. We're the same age. Kim's 3 years younger than us and Lisa's 3 years older than us. So it you know, at this point, we just have very good memories and we love each other, but we have very separate lives from each other. I'd say Nancy and I are the only ones that are pretty much in constant contact with each other.
You look so young for your age.
Oh, God.
You really do. Mindy, Dave, don't you agree? She has this smile, this face that just lights up the room. Like, yes. I can't help but smile. You can't help but make me happy when you smile.
Oh my God, that's so sweet. Thank you. Listen, it's Granny Rose. I'm a doppelganger for my granny. Really, like, what's so funny about the aging process, I was telling my mom and dad, like, I don't know what it was, but I hadn't looked in a mirror for a couple of days, which is, you know, I tend to not do that. And for some reason, I really like got in there. I think I was putting on makeup or something. And I started laughing because I saw Granny, who's not been with us for a few years. Oh. And I said, I laughed and then I cried because there she is. You know, it's, genetics are amazing.
They are.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm morphing into one of my most favorite people on the planet who's no longer with us. So it actually makes me very happy. And I knew that from a very early age that I was going to be like, I did not peak in high school, Nicole, and Dave, right? Like
Yeah.
I knew that I was going to come into my own later. And I just, yeah, I think I'm going to be just an adorable old lady. So
Yeah.
I'm really I'm okay with it.
Minnie, I got a question for you. Is just following up on your story and everything Nicole's absolutely right. Nicole and I are right around the same age, so Facts of Life was a
Okay.
huge deal in our house growing up.
Oh,
But one thing about you was, and what I found fascinating is you said the way you were discovered. Number one, that Charlotte Rae basically was boom. That's a girl that's going to be on the show. Norm Lear said that's a girl that's going to be on the show. Your comedic timing was outstanding, just from a young age. Did you grow up in a funny household?
well, I don't think so, but my dad has we all have an amazing sense of humor, and we find each other funny. I mean, the Cohns are funny, not haha funny, but right. We all have a sense of humor about life and a lightheartedness. And again, my Granny Rose was a very unique person. I'm just genetically disposed to being terminally optimistic because of her. I really do think it's a genetic disposition. Number one. And number two, I am a big introvert with a face that belies that, right? I look like I'm an extrovert. So people have always, oh my God, I don't know why, but I want to talk to you. And I inside, I'm like, oh my God, please don't. Okay. So I learned from a very early age to sort of like not put on a face, but a little bit of the dog and pony show, because inside I was so terribly uncomfortable. So I think I just learned how to put on one-on-one. I'm a very good raconteur and storyteller for sure. But put me in, group more than 3 people, and I'm a little bit of a wallflower. So I think it was a perfect storm. It was me and my 2 pals and Norman and Charlotte and Alan. So there were 6 of us. And I just, I think I was very comfortable and led well. But I think if we were in a bigger group, that never would have happened. So like Luck of the Irish, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get what you mean too about in your family you'll have like your own sense of humor. Like me and my girls, we all have the same sense of humor and we will laugh all day. It's shit probably nobody else would understand or think is funny, but we are cracking up. And I'm like, I wonder if other people just think we're nuts or what the deal is. But that's when you have a close family bond and you know that you guys are, like you said, genetically, you're genetically intertwined.
We always had a sense of humor about ourselves. I think it's something that a lot of my friends didn't grow up with. Their parents took themselves very seriously, took what their kids were doing very seriously. And my parents were so young when they had my sister and I, and they are the American dream, built themselves up individually to be incredibly successful, and also had and still do, a dynamic relationship. And so I think that lends itself to being like, I don't know, let's try it. Like there was no, have to's and let's just see and, and we'll be here for each other. And we had this Cohn thing where you open the front door and you close the front door and you take your bra off. It was like whatever was going on, even my dad, whatever was going on out there, once you're inside the house, whoever you are, whatever's going on, we have each other. And I had that from the time I can remember, which is around 4. I have my first memories of like feeling that comfort. And so I really tried to be that person to my family of choice, which are my friends. And so, yeah, I do. I think it starts with your family. So your girls, Nicole, have whatever happens to them in life, the fact that you have given them that, I think is everything. That's just my humble opinion.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. It's funny because my dad was like super easygoing. My mom really was not. So it was sort of like genetically, I think I got his disposition and then sort of just shifted the cycle, right? So like just carried on how and I'm a single mom. So the way I do it goes. There's no other influence. So,
well, I'm telling you, as the recipient of that energy from from 2 parents, it's everything. Truly.
Yeah, it really takes the pressure off of life, right? Like,
yes.
Yeah, to know that you've got
it's hard enough.
Pillow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. I love that.
Yeah,
I love that
you got to have you got to have a safe haven. And if it isn't your home, I think people tend to go seek that out and usually, fall into trouble. Some are lucky. and don't. But I think a lot of people, just as human beings, we're looking for that place to just be ourselves and have someone go, yeah, you're fine.
Yes.
That's good enough. Good, you know? Yeah.
You're right. You're right. Because my home wasn't always that for me. So what I kind of did is just moved out really early and created it for myself.
Right.
Luckily
Yeah.
I didn't go seek it in horrible dark places. So but I think that's because I had the money to do it, right? If I had not been an actress or on a show, I don't know. Who knows what. So a lot of times when people say like, oh, you're so normal, I'm sort of like, but acting sort of saved me because it gave me that freedom to then go create my own safe haven of space,
Nice.
So
Yeah.
yeah, people are like, what, you lived out, because I moved out at like 14,
Mhm.
15, I bought my first house. So people think that that's like so crazy, but I'm like, no, it saved me and made me, stable person that I am, ironically.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I hear about these stories. I don't know if you can relate, right? Like we had a couple of salacious, tidbits that happened during our 10 years, and especially those, first few years where we were underage. There was just, one or two really weird things that got addressed and fixed. Having said that, I don't like being, I see these stories and I hear these stories from the time that I started of these child stars. I mean, I just can't even relate to that. And I just, it was so not my and our experience that I mean, it shatters me, just as a human being. But I have no sense of it because our set was not like that at all. And the energy around us was not like that. And a lot of that had to do with not just our parents, but our crew and our executives and our network. Did not allow for that shit, excuse me, just so my heart goes out, but I also just, when I'm asked, I just say it just was not my experience, our experience at all. So I can't relate to that. There were a couple of personalities of adults that did not cute things, and it was nipped in the bud immediately. And I just think that's because you're working with 200 people around you, and so somebody's, there's a couple bad apples. But having said that, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't connect. I actually, like you, for the majority of it, right? I mean, we know each other's story, full story. But for the majority of it, we got the goodies without the horror, for the most part. Yeah.
Because I started working so young and I worked on so many different things. I was on one show, one set who had a bad tyrant lead actor,
Right.
one
Yes.
out of all of them.
Right.
So there's something to be said about that. And, lucky for me, when I was on the show with the terrible guy, it wasn't my first rodeo. So I knew it wasn't supposed to be like this, and not all sets were like this. So,
yes.
Yeah. Yeah, if it had been my first, oh my
Can you
gosh, it
imagine?
would have been
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, you would have been one of these people talking, and and not being able to move forward, understandably. So yeah, I just feel, I've had this conversation with a couple people, like Jodie Foster, and right. I mean, this sort of that it's like, no, I kind of had it great, and I got all the benefits without the horror.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel really lucky about that. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's amazing. Before they cast you in the show, did you have like thoughts of wanting to be an actress, or was this something that you fell into? Just fate had it.
Oh yeah, my whole life has been serendipitous in a lot of ways, and I always say it started with being born to Nat and Ina Cohn. I got born to these two like ridiculously amazing people, and then that happened. With the facts of life, and then I met my mentors who said, "Oh no, you're an actor," and I'm like, "Really? You sure?" And just because of who they were in the world, I believed them before I believed in myself. And then, kind of by the time I was 16, 17, and I did my first play in New York because of them, I was just like, oh. And to the horror, that is the one horror I brought to my family, which is like my parents were like, really? You don't want a corner office with an assistant? You sure? Do you want to go to med school? You're sure? You know, they were, and they still, oh my God, at 84, are sort of like, it's just such a hard business, man. You know, I mean, they would have been so happy for me to do anything else. But, you know, born a creative, you know, discover, it's just serendipity, and it keeps happening and it keeps giving. And, you know, everything my mentors predicted when I was in my late teens, early 20s has come true. And they all in various stages had said to me, oh my God, if you have your health, your 50s and 60s and 70s are going to be the best years of your life, privately and professionally. And, you know, you don't want to hear that at 20, because you're like, what's going to go on for the next few decades, kids, you know, but it's really kind of happened, you know? And so I think that's also given me that sort of when things aren't going well, whether it's health related or personally, I remember that like, girl, you're only 58. You got a couple more decades in there, kiddo, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that so much. I know, because aging is this thing that has finally come with this freedom to like be your authentic self, to embrace it, to not freak out about it, to now be excited about all the shit you've been through and all the stuff you've learned, and you get to exercise like you're an adult. I mean, I didn't grow up till I was 50. I don't think I like realized I was an adult till I was 50. I was like, girl, you are 50 years old. Like,
yes.
So, you know, and I just feel like life becomes more fun.
Yes, I don't think boys, and you know, Dave, you'll help me with this if I'm wrong.
Okay.
I don't think boys and men get fed the misunderstanding. I call it a misunderstanding, that once you hit 50s and 60s, you know, boy, is it over. Women do for some reason, and I think it has to do, obviously, you know, close your ears, Dave, fertility or being able to have a baby or whatever the, you know, F that is. But I was given that misunderstanding by a lot of voices in my 30s and 40s of just like, I mean, do it now, and my 30s and 40s weren't my happiest at all. And then you hit 50, and for me, I'm on the verge of 60. Yeah, I've been having a completely opposite experience, and so that's why I call it a misunderstanding. And I don't think boys and men are sort of given that. Are they?
No.
Okay. I didn't think so.
I mean, I say this all the time. I mean, men overall, we aren't very smart. Okay. So in our minds, our memory is we can do everything we thought we could do when we were 18 to 30 years old. And that's why you see us getting hurt, because your mind is telling you can still do that. And you can't do that. You jump on a skateboard, you break your arm, you know, you tell your Achilles tendon getting out of bed. You do crazy things that just go, what happened? Because your body and your mind are two different things. But no, guys just kind of cruise. We just aren't that bright. And we just kind of cruise going forward. And we never really look back thinking, I should have done this, should have done that. They just kind of cruise into what's next. And as I always say, not to get political, but I always vote women because women pay attention to details. Men never pay attention to details in anything. We just want to get it over with and move on to the next thing on the list. And that's kind of it. We kind of cruise. And we didn't have the, as you said, you know, the pressure of women saying, you know, you have to have a baby before age 35, you know, and you're in tune with your body. And men just don't think that way.
Yeah. I do. Yeah. Oh, there's that little like.
There you go. I try and do it all the time. It never works for me. It frustrates me.
Oh my God. I mean, if balloons come out, the other one like freaks me out. Yeah, that's what I'm noticing too. And so, yeah, I've sort of, you know, my biggest bandwagon now has sort of been like this truly has been the best time of my life, and the best things are yet to come. And I feel that way. And it's not a Pollyanna kind of like, you know, cheerleading kind of thing. It's really been my experience, which I know is not going to be everyone's experience, but I would like to be the messenger of that message to 20 and 30 and 40-year-olds. Like, relax, truly try and relax, because the best is coming. Truly, the best is coming.
Yeah. If you allow it, right?
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, if you allow it and you embrace it and you're confident and happy in it. And I see that shift in the world, and it's such a relief for our younger generations to come too. See, like listening to Dave, but he's one of the good guys. So like he's the good guy, not going through like a middle life crisis and leaving his wife for some young chick.
I think women go through a middle life crisis too. We just weren't told that was going to happen. Right. Men sort of, you know, there's this thing like, oh, and this is what happens with men. And I think in some ways, obviously people get hurt, women and children get hurt, but there's something about men of just like, this was great, and now this is not working for me. I'm going to go this direction. And women, for some reason, are not given the message, you can do that too.
Right.
And not just about a marriage, like anything, career path, So that's what I meant by the difference between the messages men get and the messages women get. And I also, not to keep, putting the attention on what you're going through medically, but I also think emotionally and spiritually, we can handle health stuff that comes our way. I mean, I just get undone when I see a very young person going through something that I went through later in life. Like, I just feel like I can handle it and I can get through it with grace. And also that I know now that like fear and faith can go hand in hand. It's not either or, it's like both. I'm scared out of my mind, but I'm going to choose to believe for today that everything's going to be okay. It's a very mature way of thinking. And I didn't think that way in my 20s and 30s.
Yeah.
No, 100%. It's like being able to parent yourself, right? It's being able to allow yourself to be scared and sad and vulnerable, and then be able to soothe yourself back into everything,
Yes.
into the positive. No,
Yes.
you're absolutely right. I would not have had those skills, not even probably 5 years ago.
Right. And I know for me, a friend of mine is going through something as well. And she's like, I don't even know what I need. And I said, because you asked. And she didn't ask, but I'm Busybody Inc. So of course I'm going to tell her. I said, how about company? That's one thing I've learned too. It's like, I don't need anything outside or anything you need to buy. I think I just need someone to bear witness and company to walk me through whatever it is. And 9 times out of 10, like, we're always stumped. Like, what do I do for this person? What can I say? But just being there. And I think we don't know how to ask for that until we're much older. It's like, you know what, all I need? You to be around. Plenty. That's exactly what I need. Things like that I just think take age and maturity. Again, I just was not given the message that things were going to be easier in that way for me to ask for what I need.
It's true. It's very true. And also on the other side of that is our friends are also at that place where they know they have to come around to just listen and just be, and just, not have to ask the crazy questions and don't have to sit there and cry with you and everything. They know that their side of this is to pull you out of it and distract you and bring some normalcy to a crazy situation, right? So it's all of us together collectively getting to that place, which is, because I have friends that I've had since we were like 15, 16 years old.
Yeah.
And the difference in our friendships and how we have each other now is just so different and just so beautiful and amazing. So yeah, I have luckily I have a few good friends like that they get it.
All you need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really true.
Yeah.
Mindy came on Charles in Charge, and it's so funny because
that's where we met.
Yeah, that's where we met. And I mean, that set was pretty gruesome and dark at a lot of times. So it was always exciting to have guest stars on because there would be a lot of distraction, for the week. And you knew that there was going to be a new energy. And certain people weren't going to be behaving the way that they would when there's fresh eyes and guest eyes.
That's right. Especially people who knew them really well.
Yes.
And would give them what for.
Yes. So when Mindy came on, it was just like, not only was I just like obsessed because I loved that show, but like I said, the energy that you bring and that you have, it's just certain people have it. It's nothing you can learn. It's nothing you can buy. It's nothing you can do. It's just in you. And you're just such a bright light. You just are. Yeah. You made that week so much more fun and exciting, and to watch you doing your thing. And it was amazing. So thank you for that.
Oh my gosh, please. It was my pleasure.
All these years later. Thank you.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, because in the moment you don't know to tell somebody that, you're just sitting there like, oh my God, this is happening.
Well, and also, legitimate the age discrepancy at that time too. And the power, what we learned later, right? The power dynamics. I mean, obviously I had a very different relationship. With certain people there, and had no idea what was going on until much later. yeah, I mean, disappointing to say the very least.
Disappointing.
That's the least I could say. I could say more, but I shan't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not worth the energy. Yeah,
No.
disappointing is, and it's like, a lot of people, the hardest part about talking about it all is that it disappoints people. And that's the part that breaks my heart, is that, it disappoints fans and it disappoints people that love that show. And there's part of me that doesn't want that. I don't want the fans to like look at the show differently, because when we were working and being the characters and doing our thing, it really was, a great thing.
Well, of
It
course,
really
it
was.
wouldn't have lasted that long if you guys didn't have that chemistry and that, I mean, it wouldn't have, right?
Right. Yeah.
However, I think fans need to like, check themselves. I always think it's just like, you can love something and someone and know the full story, or turn the channel and turn it off and not listen. But I think it's more important to sort of have people earn what they've done. And that I'm not really a person that tells secrets out of school, but I also don't really tolerate bad behavior. And I don't think it should be tolerated in any medium, in any career, in any way, shape, or form. And especially when you're dealing with minors or young adults. And so, period, full stop. That's my take on it all, and fans just need to get over it.
Yeah, I appreciate that, because that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
And the other thing that is true, is that I lied for a long time, right? Like, people suspected and people knew, so people would ask. And so I also owed it to myself to live in my truth and come clean about things I had been covering up. So, there's two things that are very real there, is that people need to be held accountable, and you also have to make right what you're feeling is wrong. Like what I was carrying, I needed to not carry that anymore. So
yeah, and I will say that there are a couple of the girls, I call them girls, I mean, we're all ladies at this point, but but who have, I mean, have they rewritten history? I don't know, but from where they are now and their ages now, they are looking back at our 10 years and have some feelings about certain things and certain people. And a couple of us are like, really? Like it's their experience. And I've had to also sort of be like, okay, I didn't see it, didn't feel it, didn't notice it at the time, but that's their truth. And I have to respect that. You know what I mean? I'm saying it doesn't flavor my memories of it, but moving forward, I'm much more cautious about how I talk about the four of us and our experience. I talk about my experience now and not just the girls, because it's come out that a couple people have had different things that I didn't really know about, which you're thinking like, how did you not know? We were together like in the Army, right? Like, so yeah, I don't know. There's a big flag of, waving grace around my household. And like in the daily life, I remind myself not to be so critical and judgmental of other people. And so quick to say, that's not what happened, because I just have to give everybody a little grace that they might've had a different experience than I did, or they're having memories now that are different. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody, we could all be in the same room and all have a different experience, right? That's
Yes.
That is the truth. That
Yeah.
is the truth. Yeah. Did you watch that documentary Quiet on Set?
I did, and I was late to it, I think. Yeah, I had heard rumblings about Dan and those sets years ago, and just in general. And I'm gonna say, well, God, it's like, Mindy, are you just really gonna be that brutally honest? Yeah, I guess I am. I find, you know what, and maybe with you here, Nick, you can share with me your thoughts. I think the acting and I don't relate to it. I don't relate to that kind of show. It's a very different show than what I was doing. And I don't mean to say better or worse. It's all water. And some is deep and some is shallow, but it's all water. So I'm not judging. But I find like the caliber of script and story, it's just different. And I think it lends itself to different kinds of people being around. I don't know if I'm talking in circles or you're picking up what I'm putting down. but there was sort of this like level of writing and producing and actors. I mean, think about some of our guest stars too, right? Everyone from Helen Hunt to David Spade to like, at a certain level. And I looked at that documentary and I went, just looking in on it, it looked like a shit show. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hope I'm being clear and also not too much of an ass.
No, not at all. Not at all. I'll tell you what, I had heard all the rumblings.
Very lawless and
yes, 100%, because I had heard rumblings, and then when I watched the documentary, I was kind of shocked, to be honest, because I thought there was going to be like more of like the Drake, what happened to Drake Bell. I thought there was going to be more of that. I did not realize, because I did not watch those shows. However, my oldest child, who's 20, is going to be 26 here in a couple of weeks, she did grow up on those. And when she was watching it, she texted me and she's like, I'm horrified. I feel sick. And I didn't realize the writing and these jokes that were going on. And I'm like watching this and I'm like, where the hell were the executives? Where the hell were where was everybody? Just checked out.
What I'm saying is that wouldn't have passed on network television, right? With standards and practices, right? We couldn't even say damn until like the late 80s, right? So like, I'm just saying, it's just such a different kind of, to be lumped in when they talk about child stars is like, that's very separate from how network shows were run and the behaviors and what would be allowed on television. So I just think it was not relatable. Let me just say, to me, it was horrifying.
Right.
Don't get me wrong. I mean, and I feel for them, but I felt like I was looking at something that I could not relate to at all. It wasn't anything like my experience.
No, 100%. Right? I mean, if those jokes had been written for like you or I, our parents would have been like, what the hell is this? Right?
Well,
like everybody.
Our network executive would never have let some of that physical comedy.
Right.
Never would have passed the mustard.
And it seems like it's an umbrella of just those shows and just the shows that he was steering, right? Like just those, because I don't see anything else before or after that that's like that. And it's interesting because they did some remakes of some of those shows and his name is still in the credits. And my 12-year-old said to me, is that Dan Schneider still working? Right? Because she knows that they were inappropriate and it was horrible. And I said, no, but when you write something or you create something, you forever get the credit for it. And she's like, well, that's not right, And it's just wild. Yeah, it was that certain time that he was given the reins to create those shows. And what a sick. But
he also wasn't stopped. So, I'm not defending him by any stretch of the imagination, but when you're left untethered and told, like, not only do we like what you're doing, please give us more.
Yeah.
I'm sure he did not have an iota of sense that anything was wrong in his mind, and no one was checking him. So, I mean, right?
Right. What you're doing is working because you're getting bigger budgets and new shows. And your boss, quote unquote, is loving you and promoting you. So yes, you keep doing what you're doing 100%. And I guess none of them watched the shows. That's kind of what I'm thinking is were all the adults just checked out and nobody actually watched the episodes. They were just there for set life. They just showed up and, had their bails and then.
I think parents, my mom and dad used to sit my sister and I in front of PBS and we would watch Sesame Street. And then on Sundays, the Sid Croft shows, right? Remember, like Puff and Stuff and Lands of the Lost and left us alone. And I think similarly, parents let their kids watch Nickelodeon and Disney shows thinking this is going to be okay for them. I can leave. I can go in the kitchen or the den. And I think kids were left. So I don't think parents were watching with their children. My parents didn't watch with me those programs for children, right? At a certain age, they let you watch on your own.
The parents of the kids on the show delivering this dialogue. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, where
You
were
know,
they? They were just
I think
backstage having coffee, bagels and donuts and like chatting, and
the parents
nobody's
were very
paying
honest.
attention.
I think the parents were very honest that those kids were the paychecks of those families. They were the kings and queens of their castles. And when that happens, not only at work, but then at home. And I always say that every time I hear a story of something gone amiss, I go to the parents, and the parents are either not there or they're living off that money.
Yeah, there's something to be said about that, like, because like I was not by any means the breadwinner in our household, and that nothing flew with as far as like
Yeah.
when I went home, I had to do chores. I had to pick up the
Right.
dog poop and walk the dog and
I think
dust
it's
and
really
do dishes.
dangerous, whether it's television or your kids in sports and a sports star. I just think it gets really sketchy if your children are the breadwinners.
Yes,
Period.
for all involved, because
All
that's a
involved.
lot of pressure for a kid
Yeah.
that should not be there. And then what are you doing as an adult if that's the case?
Right.
You're not doing your job, in my opinion.
Right.
Oh
So
yeah,
yeah,
that's
right. We see it in the music business. We see it in sports. It's not just, TV and film. So yeah, I always just think, oh gosh, people get very used to a lifestyle. And even if their kid is unhappy, it's like, just one more season, one more film. Let's, don't you want to go to Paris next year? Don't you want to, don't you love this house we're in? I just think, yeah, it gets a little warped.
yeah.
And I don't want to blame anyone, but it's just, I think that's a really big contributing factor. And then when I see people like me and my castmates and other people who have not only survived but thrived, I always they had a home life. They had like at least one parent or a good friend or somebody that made them feel like you are not what you do. It's just what you do. It's not who you are. Like I said in the
Right.
beginning. Yeah, I think it's really important.
Yeah, because I hadn't thought of that aspect very much because I didn't experience it. But somebody recently had asked me, "Did you get your money? Like after all those years, did your parents give you the money?" And well, yeah. I mean, it was my money. I earned it, and I always heard the stories of parents taking the money, but and spending it. But that was I felt like back then there was fewer, it was less of that. I feel like that's become more of a trend later where people are like, oh, my kid could be a star. We could get rich off my kid. That mentality isn't really anything I kind of grew up with, or at least I didn't notice. Because that
Yeah.
wasn't my world, right? I wasn't this big, deep thinker. And I think that's become a thing where you see more parents putting their kids in the position to go in. Like, there's just a lot more stage parents that are doing that and thinking,
Yeah. When I
the
think
kid's
I
going to
see
be the ticket out.
Yeah, I think I see it more with like the influencer, those kids and their parents, that's kind of become the new revenue avenue. I see the same things happening, these really young kids being the king and queens of their castles and getting Teslas as their first cars
Yeah.
and supporting the household. And so there is this push to just more, get it now. It's it freaks me out.
It does. It freaks me out too, because there's one thing like, okay, fine, you can make all this money, but you have to teach them also that this might be a flash in the pan. This might only be for right now. So let's put this money away, save this and invest this instead of like, let's all go buy brand new cars, right? Let's all get big houses and buy all the
Yes.
latest. There's a different ethic going on there. That's not great.
Yeah. Yeah.
I agree with that. Okay. Thank you so much for being with us. You are just I'm so
My
happy for
pleasure.
you. So genuinely like excited for you and
you.
enjoying watching and getting to fangirl all over again. And it just, I am. And it means so much that you would come on the show and talk to us.
Of course. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, I'm glad we did the do. This is great.
Yes, I know. I hope to see you in person soon.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay. Talk to you soon.
Thanks,
Bye,
you guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
That was
She's
really
such a
cool.
delight, right? She's such
Yeah,
a
she is.
delight. Yeah.
Absolutely. That was really neat. That was every time you bring someone on and you're going, okay, what's this person going to be like? I'm always afraid it's going to ruin the image in my mind. And she was outstanding. She was absolutely outstanding. That was really cool. That was nice. let's get to today's mailbag. What do you say?
Let's do it.
Okay, so again, Nicole's mailbag. It's easy. All you have to do is go to perfectlytwistedpod.com. And right there, you'll click right at the top, the mailbag, and you submit your questions. So we have 5 questions today from Rochelle Evans. Okay.
Okay.
And Rochelle says she's obviously a Baywatch fan. She says, Nicole, as a Baywatch fan, if Summer had to end up with either Matt or Slade, who do you want her to end up with? She says she's Team Slade.
Me too. Same.
You didn't even
Same,
hesitate.
Same. No hesitation. Because if you want to do it like, where are they now?
Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
Yes, I mean, I think that I think she would end up with Slade because she would get to travel and go to all the different beaches. I can see 2 different scenarios. She
Okay.
goes with Slade and lives this life and gets to go visit at beaches at these competitions he does, and they get to have like surf babies and all of that. And then if she was to end up with Matt, she'd probably stay home more, be at home, stay in the lifeguard tower. So I'm going to go with Slade because that just seems so much more fun.
There you go. I think you just made her day right there with that answer. All right. Second question. Nicole, what is the scariest moment you ever had while filming in the ocean?
I think the realization that, well, there's 2 things. There's 2 different things, but they're very different from each other. The realization that the water could be as dirty as it was at times.
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example. Is that one time we were out there and they would take us out like on a barge and then just dump us in the water and shoot scenes out there. And the lifeguards came by and said, get them out. And we had to go to a tower and do a special rinse, eardrops, eye drops, the whole thing. But the public is still in the water at the beach, right?
Ooh.
It's not closed. So things like that make you really realize, how that, how they grade the beaches. It's a very sliding scale. That was scary. And then the other thing I guess that would be scary is like sharks. Because we used a lot of wave runners and it attracts the sharks, the sound. So I remember shooting in Hawaii and in this bay, and it's known for having a lot of sharks. And I was on the back of the jet ski with Jeremy Jackson. And so he kept flipping it and throwing me off to scare the shit out of me. And so I'd land in that water, really get me back on. It's not fun. And come back and laughing, So there's that kind of scary too, or just being in the underwater sets and being with all that electrical power underwater. You're kind of sitting there like on guard, like nobody kick that light.
No kidding.
Don't kick anything. Don't drop anything. We're all toast, So there's a few things that are kind of sketchy about working in the water.
Oh yeah. All right, here we go. Question 3. Nicole, who was your celebrity crush when you were young, and who is your celebrity crush now?
I didn't really have a lot of celebrity crushes as a kid growing up. I mean, I think for a moment it had to be probably Ricky Schroeder, and Kirk Cameron. So, but those were like short-lived, quick little. But I saw those guys all the time, so it was different. It wasn't like it wasn't. I didn't pin anybody up on my wall. As an adult, I kind of feel the same way. It's, it's very different, but I do love Kevin Costner. I keep that no secret. Kevin Costner is I think is a gem, and I get excited. I get excited about Kevin Costner. So that's it.
What's funny is this past weekend I went and saw the movie The Fall Guy, and so I used to like the TV show, and it's funny, Celebrity Crushes. Everyone knows you were my celebrity crush, and Heather Thomas, I think, was my first poster I ever had, and so it was kind of funny that I'm sitting there, I'm watching this movie, and then when I went home, I started looking up Ryan Gosling. I've seen him in movies for years, and talk about just great energy and everything else. And I didn't know anything about his background, about that he was even from Canada, anything else. One of the things that I thought was fascinating is I'm listening to you and Mindy talk about childhood and getting put into the business, that he didn't have a lot of friends growing up. Up until like age 14, 15, he didn't have any friends. And it says in there that he watched the Sylvester Stallone movie First Blood, which is a violent movie. So he goes to school with like a bunch of kitchen knives and just starts chucking them at kids. And when he gets kicked out of school, I'm like, what the hell? Like it was the craziest thing. And then he gets this show on Disney, and his roommate's Justin Timberlake, and they're still good friends, and his whole career like turned around. But here's a guy that went from no friends, like a normal life that Mindy just had, and you've had a normal life, to chucking knives at kids, to all of a sudden just being this giant star. Like it is so weird the path that everyone has taken as you bring people on. But I'm reading this going, oh my God, this is not at all what Nicole's life was like. She never went to school throwing knives at people.
Throwing knives at me. Okay, so my crush is Kevin Costner's, and Dave's is Ryan Gosling.
No, it was Heather Thomas.
You Googled Ryan Gosling.
The one. So I did. I Googled Ryan Gosling. I gotta tell you, here's my Heather Thomas poster lasted, I think, 2 weeks, Nicole, because my sister was 4 years older than me, goes to college, comes back from school on Thanksgiving break with a fake ID, and she takes me out drinking. And I'm 15 years old, and I'm drinking a bunch of Long Island iced teas. I've never drank in my life. And went to the old spaghetti factory before we went out and got drunk, and everything that I ate ended up on that poster on the way to the bathroom to throw up. I was like, I gotta throw this poster out. It's spaghetti and beer all over it, and Long Island iced teas. Lasted 2 weeks. That was it. That was my poster gone out the window.
Poor Heather.
Poor Heather. Do you know Heather?
Thrown up on Gosling.
Oh my gosh. Googled. That is so funny. All right, here we go. 2 more questions. Nicole, I absolutely loved the fact that you and your girls had an ice cream truck. What's your favorite flavor of ice cream?
Here's the thing. I'm not a huge ice cream fan. Like, ironically, I don't love ice cream because I don't really love cold stuff. So like acai is super in. My kids like it. I don't love cold. I didn't grow up with ice and cold stuff. So ice cream isn't really my jam. But if I have to pick what I did have something at Ben and Jerry's. It's like the American or something. It's like got pieces of cone and caramel and chocolate. So if you do anything crunchy, caramel and chocolate, I'm in. Let's just leave it at that. Yeah, I'm in with that.
Good deal. I didn't even think about that. You said on the show that you were not a fan of cold, like not even ice. And so yeah, I didn't even think about that issue of the question. All right.
Well, no, you think I would have opened a truck if I loved ice cream? I would have been 10 times fatter than I am now. Are you joking?
That would have been me. I've been to the back to scooping Rocky Road like crazy. All right. I'm curious about this question because these 2 stars were like big stars when I was growing up. And it says, Nicole, what was it like working with Robert Urich and Cheryl Ladd and When She Was Bad? You were so young and amazing in that.
Well, thank you. I loved it because it was my first like big role. And it was for a movie of the week. Remember when those were a thing? And that didn't end up running like my whole life. That was on every year. It became like a favorite. But it was great because I really looked up to Cheryl Ladd. She was on Charlie's Angels, one of my favorite shows. I mean, I was working with her. So, and she had a daughter that was just a year younger than I. And we really hit it off and kept in touch after that. But on set, I think that it was still at those days where kids were a pain in the ass. You know, it was sort of like you're there to be seen, not heard. Just do your dialogue and skedaddle. But I remember just having an amazing time on that set. And I remember I memorized the entire script. I knew everybody's lines. And I there were a couple times that people forget their lines and like I'd tell them and it was like, shut up, kid. You know, it was like my mom was like, you should stop doing that. Don't do that.
Oh my gosh.
I was 5 years old. I knew everybody's lines. But that was such a great show. And then a guy brought his dog on and his dog had puppies. And we took one of the puppies home. That was my childhood dog for a long time. So that was all in all a great set.
Yeah.
And listen, Cheryl Ladd and Robert Urich, they were such a sexy couple. It was sort of like.
That's what I was going to say. That's like literally like 2 of the best looking people on the planet. You know what I mean? That's really cool.
Like I was their kid. I was their daughter. Yeah. So it was like, you know, it was fantastic all around.
That is awesome. That is really cool. Again, appreciate the questions, Rochelle. That was a lot of fun. You have any you want to add to questions? Go ahead, perfectlytwistedpod.com. Go to the mailbag. It's that simple right there, and we'll do our best to get them on the show. But
Yes,
thank you so much.
Rochelle. I love those. I love the questions, and thank you so much, you guys. This really put me in a good mood. I go get my MRI today, so
Good luck.
this brought my spirit up and has me smiling. And so, thank you to Mindy Cohn. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Rochelle. Thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you next week.